Oh, it's kind of Neil Young now. Episode 12. It's been a while. It's now been almost as long as the Tool album since podcast. Episode 12.
Is that it? Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing. Wow.
There was a time when we were really good at those.
We used to practice them.
Yeah.
So Mark's looking at me like, what the hell have I just got myself into?
You know, yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Slightly
after that.
nervous now.
My musical reputation is on the line.
That's why I didn't sing a note.
So it's episode 12.
Yes, I did mention that in the song.
Good.
That's all I ever mentioned in the songs.
And how long since the last one?
It's been like 13 years.
You know, I can look this up.
Like, as long as if I mention the Tool album more than 10 times tonight, can you give me a backhand?
So Carl, the Tool album comes out tomorrow.
I know.
Have you heard it yet?
Am I legally allowed to? Hasn't every Tool fan heard it? Thanks to this chap in Target who's pinched a copy and forwarded it on.
Did you hear the whole story? The
way he drove to Vegas and all this craziness.
Because he worked in Target. Sorry, we're joined by my older brother Mark.
Hello?
we can't podcast about Mark. We're just playing about Tool already.
I thought we were going to introduce him properly.
So he had
just absorb.
He sold a CD from Target.
Yeah.
And then he took it home and he realised he couldn't actually rip the CD.
Because he's a modern gamer and he didn't have a disk drive on his laptop or whatever.
Oh.
And then so all the crazy Tool fans on Reddit knew that he stole the CD and were going mental, like, we need to hear the music, where the hell is the music? And we're getting like crazy mental with him because he hadn't given it to him yet. So he put out a plea saying, I live in Las Vegas, can anyone help me? And then someone messaged him saying, I'm at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas, meet me here in 45 minutes. So with the CD, he legged it over to this guy, met him in his hotel room, and then they ripped the CD and then legged it back again, and that's how the Tool album got leaked.
Wow.
You didn't even know this guy.
No.
It could have been anyone.
Could have been anyone, yeah. But
And then a few hours later, everyone had the album.
everyone. That's good. But I guess is that now that they've put their music up on Spotify, it was coming up for streaming on Spotify tomorrow anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But and Tool are the sort of bands where I reckon you're going to buy their album sleeves are pieces of art in themselves. You know what I mean? Like the last one, I had spectacles attached to the front with which would give you like 3D in-depth
Stereoscopic.
cards. Stereoscopic,
yeah.
So they're
Well, this one's got a TV inside it.
Yeah,
It's
that's
got
right.
a TV inside
Yeah.
it with a USB plug to charge it. It's an HD TV. You open it up and you watch the TV.
Really?
Inside, yeah. So you open up the CD packaging, and then one of the flats of CD packaging has an HD TV in it, and it's got a USB charging to charge back up the battery back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And it costs you 80 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it doesn't even have all the music on because their album is longer than a CD.
Right.
So you have to go back to streaming to listen to all. We haven't heard allegedly, we haven't heard all the music yet because all the segues are only available from streaming because I can't fit that many minutes onto a
So
CD.
you're happy again now then? You get to...
I guess I get more. There's more to come. Nice. I will be an excitable chap tomorrow. It's good. No, great band. Huge songs. For the people who haven't listened to them, enjoy tomorrow because they're...
I'll send you a copy.
Do, because I don't know it also.
Yeah, I know. I think
really
you'd
cool.
like it. I think you'd like it. I'm sure you
absolutely.
would.
Nice.
Can we... Let's stop talking about Tool.
How many times is it? Yeah,
I think we're on 5 already. I'm a bit concerned. I'm going to get this backhand. But let's introduce him properly.
So I always ask when people come in, how would you sum up what you do?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You, because I know you well.
You
It's
kind
going to
of
be
know.
hard.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a list.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of a kind of... I often get the feeling it's a bit of a charlatan thing and no one's really found me out yet, and that's kind of what I do. I play trombone in classical, groups, orchestras and stuff like that.
Not classic rock.
No, proper classic, proper old stuff. And and I just kind of blow down a bit of metal tubing for my living and people happen to pay me for it. It's kind of surreal. I still don't believe it.
That's amazing. That's actually amazing. That's living the dream.
Yeah, too right.
It is. I'm guessing that a lot of people who listen to this podcast, hopefully there's a few still out there.
We have no idea, do we?
No.
It could just be.
I like it
just be the benefit of
already.
that.
I like it like that, though. I have little night dreams that, like, Lionel Richie might have heard it once. I don't know. But anyway, well, we'd all aspire to that, essentially. And so how did you get there? What's the path? Imagine lots of hard work,
Well, yeah,
training.
I mean, I think because I teach a lot as well, so it's something you often kind of have to talk to students and stuff about as well. And it's a lot of it's about luck, It's about being in the right place at the right time.
So that's
very much.
This is what I was going to pick your brains about tonight, because
Yeah.
I'm very much from like a rock and roll, whatever, rock world.
Yeah.
I played gigs, lots of gigs, and also as Aidan, but we play very different gigs to what you do. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you just said one of the key things: right place, right time.
Absolutely.
And the guys from Oasis said they reckon they were right place, right time to get signed and all that sort of stuff. So
it's always about that. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously then you've got to be in the position where you can actually take advantage. So you've got to be kind of on form.
You still got to deliver, even if the opportunity.
Of course,
you've still got to be able to deliver on that.
The difference is, so many people get the opportunity and then they don't deliver.
Yeah.
And then it's gone, But that's basically where, and then I think probably my main fault, I kind of fluked my A-levels and then had to go to music college because there was no...
Flute
no,
training.
hold on, you
got some flute
flunk, I should
A-levels?
say. But I flunked them, sorry. Let's remember these days about English, I don't speak English that incredibly often, so I often...
I thought you meant like you just didn't revise and suddenly just somehow got an A.
No, it was the other way around. But without the revising. And and I kind of... so I had to go to music college, and that, it was not really my choice, but through that you just spend your whole life for 4 years playing an instrument and kind of get good
So you
at it.
went to the building was the Barbican, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was
Guildhall.
called the Guildhall.
Guildhall School, yeah. So that's kind of like one of the kind of big music colleges in London.
All
Obviously, there's a few around the country.
We saw EST at the Barbican.
Yeah, amazing.
That's right.
It's a massive, huge concrete maze of a building, and
It's
inside
incredible.
is amazing. All the different levels and the.
Yeah, it's a
I saw,
brutalist
You
thing.
say to me, meet me by the artist door, but there's like we're always the wrong one we go to.
It's massive place, isn't it? Or you get on the wrong level and you're looking around and you can see where you have to go, but there's no way to get down there. It happens constantly, yeah.
I think I saw Bootsy Collins and his rubber band there.
Did you?
Yeah, I think it was there, and because it's quite a nice venue inside. The actual venue, it's very
It's huge, isn't it? It's huge.
Yeah, it's quite... Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And like you could see the staff, like Bootsy Collins' band came out on stage and they were riding the flight cases across the stage and stuff, and it was like, and they could see the sort of the staff were like, oh no, who let the rabble in, sort of thing. It was a real, but what an awesome gig that was. I think he did like a 20-minute bass solo, just staring at one person made him feel really uncomfortable. It was a good show, but
Were you with you when I saw Herbie Hancock there?
no.
He was with a group, an English group. I forgot what they're called, but they never ever rehearse anything, but they put an hour and a half concert on. So there's a drummer and 2 keyboard players, and it's completely experimental.
Completely
improvisation
improvised,
made up.
yeah.
And they had Herbie Hancock come in and guest, and I wouldn't say he was out of his comfort zone, but they for an hour and a half set, literally for 15-20 minutes, he just sat there and watched.
Yeah.
Wow.
And didn't play a note with his grandparents.
Really?
Didn't play a note,
And probably an hour before set up some recording equipment. Because isn't he notorious for recording everything he's ever done ever or something? Yeah.
And he just sat there and watched. And then, of course, when he played, it was amazing. But it was like you could tell it was kind of new territory, and he had to
Absorb it.
So,
a bit.
exactly. Get on the right. Yeah, precisely.
Is that something you'd get involved in? Is there a lot of improvisation in the sort of music that you?
Absolutely not. I mean, I have improvised occasionally, but it's always been a terrible disaster. Like really bad. And it's a completely different. I mean, music's music, and it's all the same thing, different language. Which I believe in. I think it's really true. But then the way you get there, the execution is completely different. Like what we do, it's just about you have something on the page, and your job is to execute it as perfectly as you can.
Which
and that
which blows my mind because
it's completely from a different angle.
You guys both read very, very well, obviously, and I've never read in my life. But because I've just picked things up from learning other people's stuff, and then time and getting my ears and semitones, full tones, and all that.
But there's a lot to be said for that because because a lot of the problem that I didn't not so much in sort of rock music, whatever, but a lot of classical musicians, they suffer because they have a kind of breakdown because you get kind of destroyed by this perfection thing.
Yeah.
So actually, we got a lot to learn from you guys. I think about that. About like just playing something, you have something in your head and you play it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's what blows my mind about it. How that page is your visual representation of what you're about to do, and it gives you all the information you need.
Yeah. Your job's just to get it out of the instrument.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So how much interpretation is it? The interpretation is from the conductor, is it, rather than from
well,
the
yeah.
musician?
Well, it depends on the chemistry of the evening. So it depends on like the group you're with, how good you feel with your colleagues, how good you feel with the conductor.
Oh,
so
that's sorry to butt in. That's kind of like. That's good. That's kind of like an improvisational thing in itself.
Yeah, there
really,
is that element.
There's that different energy there. Sorry, carry on.
No. So obviously, if you feel comfortable, then you can take a bit more risk, and you're not worried about like a note not coming out as it should.
All right.
But if you're on the stage with the wrong sorts of people, or a conductor that's really, really controlling, or gives you kind of foul look every time, the note doesn't come out perfectly piano with a perfect production. That kind of then you just tend to go into lockdown and just like okay, no risk,
So Karl, with his rebellious streak, should not get involved in that sort of thing.
Well, you could try. It'd be quite interesting, actually. Yeah, we'll get you in, mate.
I'd be like, if someone looked at me evil, I'd be like, I'm just going to play that note another 4 times. Sorry, mate.
I have that impulse as well. I've had to get around that. Believe me, it's quite a battle sometimes.
I can imagine. That's brilliant.
So you went to the Barbican?
Yeah, to Guildhall.
But that's not when you started playing the instrument, was it?
No, I mean I started playing like a different instrument, like euphonium. I was about 11. I started piano when I was 5.
Yeah.
Or 6. Probably like more or less like you, right? I mean,
hang on.
I would have been 7.
Yeah.
You guys. So how does this happen? Musical parents?
Not at all, actually.
Well, that's what I was about. That's why I've asked it. Because
I say not at all because Dad is. I mean, he's sort of musical, I guess, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to come from somewhere.
Because
Mark's technically my half brother, so we have the same dad, but not the same mum.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But there's a lot of music on my mum's side as well.
That's true.
There's a lot of music on my mum's side. So it's in there. It's in the swamp somewhere.
Well, I think because I didn't know for years and years and years, but my granddad was a big band drummer.
Right. Oh, right. Cool.
And I didn't know this for years and years and years, and I kind of. My mum plays piano and sings, and so it always comes down through, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was more there was a piano in the house, and I think I was just you just as a kid you just kind of it's probably the same with you, Aidan, and you just sort of play and just
bang
around, and at some point your parents get so sick of it they actually try and get you lessons so you play something that sounds sort of decent.
Get him lessons.
Stop the noise. So and then I started with the brass around about 11. I had a brief flirtation with the cello when I was 7,
really?
But that was rubbish. Yeah, I didn't like that. And then
that's hard. Cello's hard, is it?
Well, the thing that put me off was I laid it down one day in front of the window, and the sun was shining on it, and all the strings popped out, and I was so scared by this thing, I never touched it again.
Well, so the sun, the heat...
It kind of melted the glue or something that holds the... I don't know what, but yeah.
Oh, right. The bridge popped off then, did it?
No, exactly. And all the sort of strings just pinged off. Yeah.
Probably one of the better noises you've ever heard. Just
And I just started the trombone because it's like you can do this with like really sort of, the Johnny Briggs kind of, big glissando. And I was fascinated by that. So
that's brilliant.
That's how I got there, I guess. Yeah.
No, it is. It's completely fascinating what instrument people choose. You know, and then trombone is not your everyday. Like I can understand why blokes want to play guitar and all this sort of stuff, but that trombone is not.
But with euphonium, you know what it was, because there was I can remember as clear as day. I was about 11, and there was an episode of Blue Peter, and I was watching it, and they had a Sally Army band on, and some guy played the euphonium. I just thought, cool. That sounds really cool, and if I play that instrument, everyone's going to want to know what it is, and and that's how I.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and there just happened to be one in school, It
is. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Are they looking a bit quiet?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Should we?
Is the sort of this thing kind of?
Have we got any? Have you
got
any
on the thing?
I've got loads down here.
Yeah, well, that's 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's like me basically shouting.
That's me. Quite small.
Oh, there we go.
That's better. Yeah, if I give it
much better.
Yeah.
They've all come up now. The bigger files.
I hear myself.
That's better.
You might have to just compress.
1 2 1 2.
Compress out.
I can do automation now. I've been learning Logic.
Yes.
Wow.
That's dance music right there. God, I did a stint of about 2 years writing drum and bass songs, and
really?
The automation clips, it was just crazy for volumes and swoops and swells and stuff. It's just you spend more time doing automation clips than you do actually making music.
I don't know what they are. What are automation clips?
how do you explain that? The track.
It's making the computer do things.
Yes.
Or the track do things without you actually pressing the button. You draw
Draw a volume line.
You draw the volume in, so there's a line on Logic, and if you can make the line go up like a diagonal up, and then as the music plays through, as it goes up, it gets louder.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that means you can draw these crazy arcs and ups and down and swoops and things, and the volume can do all crazy kind of stuff.
Oh wow!
Without you having to sit there and literally like play the fader or anything.
You can pre-program
cool.
it.
But you can do it with panning or with filters or.
You can do it. I think they do on some big albums. I think it's called dipping. I'm not 100% sure on this, so correct me if I'm incorrect. Anyone out there? But to get a real, like Nirvana, say, when they come in from a quiet verse into a big chorus. Apparently, just before they bring in the chorus drums, they will dip the volume of the drums so that when it comes back in,
you get much more.
Tricks your ears into thinking it comes in whack. You know what I mean? And some clever techniques out there. Far too much to learn.
That's kind of what we do. I mean, we do that kind of thing acoustically as well. Like that's one thing. If you're playing in a big group, it's getting everyone to do the same thing.
That's what I was about to ask you. I keep mentioning this page that you have to interpret. Yeah. Is all that on there, or
no? Not at all.
No, that's you feeling the mood. That's
usually conductors will tell you what to do. But also, if you're good, then you'll pick it up around you and sort of realise that
you get the
there's 16 violins playing over the other side of the stage, and maybe at that point they're more important than I am, or doesn't happen very often, I have to say. But
15 violins on one point, it has to get to 16.
16,
yeah, exactly. 15. It's a done deal.
So if you're playing in a piece, how important is it that you know the piece of music, even if you've got the music in front of you?
Very important.
So you do spend time listening to it, and then.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky because I was kind of a bit of a nerd when I was a teenager, and I just listened to almost everything, so over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So then, when you actually years later you come onto stage and you have to play something really, really complex for 100 people on stage, all playing their own parts,
which is crazy.
So the sheet music isn't enough.
No, it gives you a guide. The sheet music is a guide, but it doesn't give you nowhere near everything.
This is what I'm trying to ascertain. It's amazing.
It's one part, it's one part, and then there's all. So you could be. I mean, just to give a little example, it could say forte on there, but there's you're accompanying like an oboe, which isn't very loud. So then you automatically have to play less.
You come back,
and it can be the other way where you're the only one, and you have to. It says pianissimo, you've got to play more because it's got to project. So etc. Because it's acoustic, so you're doing your own balancing,
exactly.
the whole time.
Yeah, that's it. It's yeah.
But
which in the rock world we just do. Instinctively, probably, I expect.
I think so. I think if you're I don't know. For me, we keep Caroline's, for instance. Again, a band that we played in for years. Those sets we used to do were 3-4 hours. We had, we'd come down. We know when someone's coming down, and you just come down. You just feel it, don't you? It's the telepathy of a musician and all that
exactly.
stuff. Not to boast or anything, but you do feel. You do feel after. Once you've been playing for a long, long time, you do get to feel these vibes, and it's
the same classical, exactly the same. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is that we're maybe 80, 90, 100 people on stage.
That's crazy, yeah.
So
rather than 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's just different, but also it depends on the hallway you play, because you're very dependent on how the hall sounds. So,
well, that's what I was going to ask, because you've got a massive hall.
Yeah.
What do you get? 17 violinists then, or does it dictate? Because obviously, the more musicians you have playing the same instrument, is that a volume thing, or is it or are they playing different parts, or is it all of this, all the above?
It just depends. I mean, no, we don't tend to. I mean, you have some halls that are just louder than others, and it's not always the size. It can be the materials, and if it bounces around a lot, or whatever. But usually that's kind of up to the conductor. Just say, here, don't go too crazy because this place is, it's crazy loud. But it just depends. I mean, even new places that they there's a really new, very expensive hall in Hamburg, the Youth Philharmonic, which costs 850 million euros. Wow. It's an incredible place. It's built they built it on top of a warehouse, and it looks like a glass sail, and it's just amazing place.
Yeah.
And but the problem there is that it's really. I probably should be careful if I say this, but it's I think it sounds very nice to the audience, but for the musicians, it's really, really difficult because you can't hear across the orchestra. So you can see the violins, for example, playing away.
Is it acoustically dead?
It's not dead, but just the way the sound's reflected around the stage. So,
but it must be part of the design because they think about these things when they make the halls, don't they?
You'd think they think about these things.
Yeah,
for that sort of cash.
I think they think more about.
It's dangerous territory here.
That's why I'm being a little cautious. I think they probably think about what it sounds for the audience, like what it sounds like for them.
They're paying the money, aren't they?
It's rarely like actually what you feel when you're on stage is rarely taken into account. You know.
Wow. Well, yeah. I suppose we're lucky because you guys don't have monitoring then.
No.
No,
nothing. No.
Wow. It's just so different. But this is it.
So that's that's where the telepathy, I think that's where experience of playing a lot, many concerts like that is so important.
Yeah.
So if you've got a shit sound, you just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Which is a huge skill in itself. And you don't learn that skill until you're up there doing it.
You've got to do it. Yeah, there's no way you can't study it in a music college in a room with a professor.
It's like it's like being a ski jumper. At some point, you've got to go for the big one.
Just got to do
first
it.
Time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and
the Albert Hall's like a classic as well. And certainly you've been to the Albert Hall many times, and I don't know, and that's like really difficult because it's like playing. It feels like you're playing an outdoor gig because it's so massive.
It's so
tall
and
you can't you can't hear anything. You see everyone going for it, and it's like you've got no idea what's coming out at all. Yeah. It's quite weird.
That's quite crazy. And I suppose, do you have areas that you sit as all the violins sit together in a?
Yeah.
And then so that's it.
In general, yeah.
And if you're next to the timpani, you're knackered.
Yeah. Next to the trombone, more the case. Isn't it? You're sat in front of the trombone, you're screwed.
Yeah. You occasionally make someone cry. It's quite cool. It's part of the satisfaction of the job.
What are the perks?
Yeah. I mean, last week I was playing in front. We were doing a really big kind of like classical music, but heavy metal Shostakovich, which is like really full on, very loud, very
excellent.
And the cymbals were right behind me, and that was something.
Well, like a crash cymbals there.
Yeah. It's unbelievably loud.
Yeah.
Unbelievable,
But I enjoy that. I don't know. I liked when we used to play gigs. If I couldn't, when like Caroline's, I'd say to the sound guy, "Can you just flood the piano? Flood the stage with piano, please."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, and he'd go, "Well, how's that?" And I'd just keep shaking my head until he flooded it, and all I could hear was just Aidan's piano coming back at me, massive. Because you want to be involved, you want to be absorbed, you want to be amongst it, rather than, that's part of the reason we do it.
The classical music, though, even they did get the technology to the point where all the musicians could have in-ears and their perfect mix and everything. They probably still wouldn't do it because I think that's such a massive part of the performance.
Yeah, I mean, we do it now. Like, for example, if you do sometimes I play sessions, like recording sessions.
Yeah.
And I did one just now in July, and then you play with a click and
so they can drop you in and out, and you do.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah. So everything's clicked.
Yeah.
So that, for example, it was Christmas music CD, which is a bit weird in July. But we did this recording, and then we were all on a click, and of course the singers, the vocalists were not there, so they'll drop them in later, and typically.
But but classical music doesn't stage at the same tempo. It's just designing a click for these things is insane.
Yeah, the click is like, and that was part of the problem, was that if we had an acceleradando or a ritardando, slowing or
it's got to be clicked in.
The click was all totally out. Unorganic. In the end, we ditched the click in the end.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, because
that's a complete Pink Floyd manoeuvre. Yeah. Ditch the click.
Yeah. Ditch the click. But then in that case, you've got to make sure that if you do drop something in, it's got to be the exact same tempo as the.
Yeah.
That's a proper skill, isn't it?
That's
amazing.
Brilliant.
So it's that's the different side of there are people, and especially in London where it's a huge industry, of session music and also classical musicians. There are people who dedicate their lives to doing those sessions. Like very, very, some of them quite rarely playing on stage. Yeah, they just sit there in the studio and just churn stuff out.
That just creates huge competition.
Yeah,
is it? And then. So how do you deal with that? Is it again who you know, not what you know, or?
Well, each scene is a bit, particularly in London where there's so many different scenes going on. It's quite unusual like that. Like maybe New York or LA or I think Stockholm as well. And basically they'll it's about who you know, and there's a little group. So the session sort of scene will be sort of kept within a little group of musicians. And it's very, very difficult. Something really major has to happen for you to get a look in.
Yeah. You remember you telling me everything about the West End in London?
Yeah, also. Yeah, and each one, there's a bit of crossover, but not that much. So someone who plays in the Opera House might occasionally do a West End show or occasionally do a session, but it's, it's just because someone's gone in at the last minute or something like that, Yeah.
Have to start a poisoning spree.
Yeah. I thought about it.
15 trombonists gone
Yeah,
down.
they're all gone, all of them.
Suddenly Mark has all the jobs. I wonder who could have done that.
I happen to be free.
for a small fee. No, good. But
So how do you get from, so you had the trombone from a young age, how do you get from the very beginner stages of trombone to the point where you feel like you can apply for these big music colleges and you're good enough to be able to, and decide it's what you want to do with your life?
Well, I think for me, I think, you have a passion for music, don't you? I mean, obviously the two of you have that as well, very much so.
Did you have that at the age of 7, or was that something that kind of...
Well, no, but I think...
it's not every kid that picks up an instrument, I guess.
No. But that was too early. I mean, at that point, I was still sort of like everyone. You're getting, you're just learning the instrument and that's all you think about, and other stuff as well that's going on around you.
Yeah.
But then I think, from some point, then you get involved in the social aspects. And it's like, in a band, isn't it? It becomes your life, basically.
It's a big deal, yeah.
And that's what hooks you in, and that's what gets you... Somehow, at some point, you realise at least for me, you realise you're on the path, and then it's really cool and you like to do it, and it's almost too much effort to get off it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same for you guys.
You were in a big band, weren't you?
Yeah.
Were you on Blue Peter?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't think I dreamt that.
Yeah. No, I was on Blue Peter. It's the pinnacle of my career.
I should be talking about that every day.
It's been downhill from there all.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that was what brought us up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what got me in.
Now I'm gonna. Is that available on YouTube anywhere for?
Possibly.
That's worth a find.
That is worth a find.
Yeah, it's in my in my collection somewhere.
Do elaborate on that for us. Just it was just
this
school band or a
big band. This is big band from Aylesbury that I used to play in, and they used to go every year, and I was one of the chosen ones one year, and. He got to play on Blue Peter.
Was it like a Christmas thing, or was it?
No, it was just I can't remember what it was now exactly. It was, but it was what impressed me was how trashy the set looked. Like, because when it's on TV, it looks amazing, doesn't it? It looks really cool with all the lighting and stuff. And actually, it's all you go around the back, it's all sort of held together with staples and bits of sellotape. It's all falling apart. It's a big disappointment as a kid. Yeah, but it was quite. But we backed. We did some quite cool stuff. We backed Maynard Ferguson, which was that was quite. We supported him. But we got to meet him and the band, and that was the Big Bot Nouveau tour, which was 88, 89. And he was kind of at the height of his powers then, so that was amazing to
King of the High Notes.
Sorry?
King of the High Notes.
Yeah, it was amazing. That was in Birmingham. It was just like I'd never heard anything like it. Didn't believe it was possible. So that was they've got even at that age, you get the chance to sort of interact with really kind of amazing.
You played with Sting recently. Well, probably 5 years ago, was it?
About 5 years ago. Yeah. That was at that Symphony. He's got the Symphony Cities project he did. And he took it all over the world, and because I live on the Canary Islands, so it's too much trouble to get an orchestra over there. They just kind of shipped him in, and then my orchestra over there, we did the show. But it was amazing.
And you were told not to talk to him.
We were officially told by the office that we were not allowed to address him.
Oh,
Mr. Sting.
Yeah, exactly, Sir Sting. So but actually, what impressed me about him was he's actually. I mean, it sounds obvious, but I mean, what a musician! Yeah. He's really amazing. Yeah,
like he knows what he wants and he knows how to get it.
He's got a real criteria, and and even like technically, like he was singing a lot, and I mean, the guy has real control. It's incredible.
He blows my mind with some of the bass lines he plays and singing. The separation. I struggle so hard. I still do. I struggle, and some of the separation between his vocal and his bass technique is amazing. He's brilliant.
And at the end of because we did it was in a football stadium, so we took like half the stadium. So there were quite a few people. I think it was about 15,000 in the audience. And he did as an encore. He did Message in a Bottle, but just a cappella. A cappella, him and the guitar, unplugged, and it was amazing,
brilliant.
It was really amazing, and I remember sitting there and also thinking, when I remember sitting on my little chairs in front of the top of the pops, eating my tea, watching this, and I'm on stage with this guy. It was really like one of those moments, like reality check.
Yeah, fantastic story.
It's really cool. Yeah.
That's all we're going to have at the end of our days. We're just going to be doing. We're going to be 92 years old, all of us, sitting around doing podcasts, talking about the stuff we did all our life.
Wasn't it amazing?
Yeah, but that's a brilliant thing. I love that. But The only thing about Sting, he went off on a bit of a tantric sex thing, didn't he? And I just didn't know about that.
You went into that.
No, I didn't know about that. I don't think he ever needed to mention it.
You're too busy for that stuff.
Weird, I didn't get the opportunity to ask him about that. I should have done. Yeah, it would have been perfect.
That's when you said don't address Sting. That's the first thing I would.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first thing that pops into your mind.
Sting. What was that? What was that about, mate?
How do you do it?
Nothing about music. Nothing about bass.
Yeah, just having a coffee by the water cooler. So, by the way.
So you said you live in the Canary Islands, Gran Canaria. That's not what you haven't lived there when you came out of Guildhall. Was it Mannheim first? Am I right?
Yeah, I went to Germany.
Was that straight after you got your degree?
Yeah, so I did. You did like most musicians do, because usually by the time you get your degree, you're still not quite good enough to so you have to sort of like do something.
Yeah.
So I went and did like a kind of master's degree in Germany. I was in Mannheim. Brilliant. It was really cool because you get to learn the language. You live there for 2 years. It was in this completely different scene, completely different mentality. Yeah.
Germany, I don't know. I'm a Neanderthal, knowledge-wise on this sort of music. I'll be honest, but Germany strikes me as a sort of place where a lot of it came from.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, certainly, and Germany. Like, if you're just a little, kind of statistic, but in England, I don't know in Britain how many orchestras there's, maybe 20. In Germany, there's like 130 orchestras.
Wow.
It's just, and that's they've reduced a lot. There were many more before.
What's when you say orchestra?
Yeah.
What's the description of that word? Do you have to have a certain amount of members to say it constructs?
No, but there'll be a certain sort of orchestration that's typical. So you'll have a minimum amount of people covering certain parts.
Okay.
A minimum and standard instruments. But in Germany, there's a big difference between because they have their orchestras ranked like football, leagues. They have A to D orchestras.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
D is not very well paid and quite small, and they work very hard. And then you have an A, you have A, B, A, and A, B, the bigger one and the bigger one and the huge one. And then you have the really famous bands above that, yeah.
So who... Excuse me, who something just happened in my throat.
That was amazing. How do you do that?
I don't know.
Do it again.
That's improvisation.
Hold on. No,
it's,
I couldn't get it. I couldn't.
We'll let you know when it happens again.
It's like a little bit of reverse Chewbacca in my throat.
Yeah.
But who qualifies you as a D or an A or a BA or whatever?
Oh, that's from the central, they
there
have
is a board, is there?
Yeah, there's a big an association in, I don't know where they are, probably in Düsseldorf or something like that. And they say this is your, and occasionally orchestras fight like crazy, and they occasionally manage an upgrade.
So how do you get an upgrade?
Well, you just say, we're working so hard and we don't have enough musicians, so we need more players, and as a result, we need to be paid more because
if they
of the
get
pressure.
upgrades, that means that another orchestra gets a downgrade, and it's like
it doesn't seem to work like that. But what they tend to do is I suspect they'll have like 4 or 5 upgrades, and then one orchestra kind of just disappears.
It's kind of like the Borg from Star Trek. They get absorbed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really weird, and of course, and it's like for a lot of those guys, it's not like even how it works in a lot of Britain. In that it's a salaried job, and that's what you do. You get up in the morning, you take the kids to school, have your breakfast, and then you go in and do your rehearsals and your concerts, and that's it. That's your job. I mean, simple.
That's again living the dream.
So it's it's quite cool. Yeah.
So all right, Germany at what age? Sorry.
Hang on, let me think. 23 to 25, and then I moved to. Then I've been living in Spain for 22 years, but with a few notable. Like I lived in China for a year a few years ago.
We were talking before that you've been to. I lived in Melbourne for quite a few years there.
Yeah.
You've been there a few times as well.
Yeah, as a musician,
is it all music related, or you just love travel?
No. It's both.
Both, yeah.
But I mean, as a musician, if you want to travel, you can travel like crazy.
You off to Columbia soon, you told me, didn't you?
Yeah, Columbia for 3 days.
That's amazing.
But this year's a bit, a lot of crossing time zones, but it's great.
Yeah, it is. It is fantastic.
So how do you cope with being on a plane for so long? Like, if you think over a year, how many hours?
Drugs. No.
How many hours do you spend on a plane in a typical month, for example?
I mean, well, probably. I mean, flights I do probably about 70 flights a year, so it's not crazy, but it's quite a few.
That's quite crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a few.
It's more than I catch buses a year.
Yeah. So you tend to get very good at. I mean, there's probably most films I've seen about 10 times, just because you know, what else are you going to do?
So is there anything, like, for someone, are there any tips for things you travel so much?
Yeah.
Is there someone who maybe hasn't flown so much, like maybe the long haul flights? Is there like a routine you go through?
Well, I think,
make sure I do this and this to make sure I can get through it all right.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it depends also. Crossing time zones, then I try and make sure I don't,
So do you
drink
sleep
too much free
or do you
alcohol.
not sleep? Because that's one of the things you hear.
I don't sleep really.
Don't sleep.
Unless you fly. I mean, occasionally I fly. Very occasionally I've flown business class, so you have the lie flat, but not very often. I mean, then you can sleep fine, and then just don't drink too much free alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of messes you up,
Yeah.
And there's more about, like, when you get to the other side, how you deal with the jet lag. That's pretty.
So do you just force yourself to stay awake until it's bedtime and then reset yourself?
That's usually
Absolutely.
the way, isn't it?
Just force yourself in, and that's why it's much better to be like playing and doing rehearsals and concerts from the beginning. Just staying awake.
Straight into the work and brilliant.
Yeah. That kind of works okay.
I'm just thinking about 70 flights a year.
Yeah.
I think what's it this year? I've done 4.
That feels like a lot, I expect, doesn't it?
4, yeah, I've done 4. I think maybe not even 4, 4. I think so.
Yeah, I think this year will be more, actually. I think this year's going to be
amazing.
Yeah.
Good.
But you just it gets to be like getting on a bus. I mean, you don't really think about it. And I used to be scared. I used to get kind of nervous about any kind of turbulence. Now it's just
What do you do? Side question. Obviously, you travel with your instrument. You fight with your own sword all the time. You don't borrow other people's.
No.
No, you always use your own. That's it.
It's lots to get involved in the trombone.
Have you got serious? Have you got serious insurances or?
I probably should have.
or just a really nice hard case.
Yeah, a bit of both. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So do you check it in or do you take it out with you?
Well, that's a big problem at the moment. Actually, it's a big theme because a lot of for classical musicians who are travelling around a lot of airlines are getting really sort of difficult about it.
Yeah.
So I've had quite a few times now that I've had to check it in underneath.
What if you're a violin player and it's made out of wood and?
Yeah, no, in the violin. Well, I mean that's crazy because they're worth. I mean, of course, I don't want my instrument to be destroyed, but
no.
I can buy another one for about €8,000.
Exactly.
But violinists in the orchestras where I play, the violinists, a lot of them are playing on million euro instruments. Like Strads and stuff like that.
I used to know a guy who played upright bass in an orchestra, and he had a mortgage for his house.
Yeah,
and a similar amount of money.
Absolutely,
on the double bass. I was
totally.
Like, wow.
It's crazy. And we go like in our orchestra for the concert masters, like the lead violinist, the guy who leads the first violins, and we give them when they get a job, they get a Strad given to them.
Wow.
Like loaned to them. It's worth $2 million. I believe. I'm not so sure.
I don't know. I'd want to get an instrument worth $2 million. I
definitely wouldn't.
No, me neither. Can you imagine the stress carrying this thing around?
If you went to my house, you would see 2 basses scratching each other inside a washing up basket currently. You know what I mean? It's like I just don't look after my stuff at all because I've always seen them as tools, for tools of the trade. You know what I mean? And I've got some nice gear, but still, after a gig sometimes I just get that feeling where I just want it off my neck, get off.
Yeah, of course.
I'm done for the night. Cheers. And that's where breakages happen. But anyway, it's like
chuck it across the.
But $1 million.
No, I mean, there's a guy I know. He plays an orchestra in Italy. He's a Russian guy, and because he's quite a well-known concertmaster, and he got to basically a couple of very famous violins, like Strads, which are in museums, but they have to be played every now and then because otherwise they die. They stop vibrating.
Okay.
So he plays this is called Cremonese or something, some special violin, and it gets brought to by a security detail, gets brought to his apartment in Turin. And he's allowed to play it for like 3 hours, but under.
That.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And there's he's surrounded by like bodyguards and security guards, and he just and they let him play it for 3 hours, and then he goes back to the museum.
For me, that would be like some security guards going to Tesco's, getting 4 or 5 Battenbergs, bringing them to my house. I'd be in heaven.
Imagine. And this thing's worth about €10 million.
It's mad.
10 million.
Something like that. Yeah, it's like one of the most famous violins ever.
Wow.
So I mean, it is. As a trombonist,
as respected as he is, that would be a treat for him, wouldn't it, as well? That
he
would love that.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
He loves it. I mean,
goes without saying, yeah.
But I mean, you see a lot of my mates, if we'll go, because after a concert, we'll go out to a bar or we kind of have some food and have, and it's a problem for them because they've got, they can't let go, they have to handcuff themselves to these instruments,
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's mad money, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you listened to it, I forwarded you an episode talking about the Stradivarius violins, and they still haven't worked out what it is that made them sound so good. I didn't actually read that, but it's really interesting. And they were debating whether actually does it sound that good, or is it just the reputation and the name attached to it that gives it the value rather than the actual tonal quality of the instrument.
Don't say that because you'll have Nike. And
they did a really. I mean, expect to know this, but they did a really famous blind test where people listened to the violin, and actually the Strad didn't come out on top.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, one of the cheaper ones came out on top.
Wow.
Well, that's funny enough because I watch a few videos on YouTube every now and again, and there was talking bass guitars because we always do. £14,000 Fodera, which is quite a nice brand of bass, and a £73 Harley Benson.
Oh, is this Scott Devine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they weren't that. Yeah, there was definitely a difference. Don't get me wrong. You could
sure.
But his playing technique is so good.
But that's the point.
He almost made both of them sound very similar.
How do you attach? How do you qualify the amount in price compared to sound?
Exactly. That's it.
It's also about how good you are. So it's often a really good instrument is more difficult to play. Yeah. Often because it shows everything. So I mean, that's certainly like that with my instrument. So if you're it can often sound worse unless you're really, really good. Because the instrument kind of eats you alive. It's just it's too. I don't know how it's on basis.
It's a battle. You have to conquer the instrument.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And also. How exposed you are I don't know. I'm not sure if you think you are. I don't know, but I think when you listen to orchestral music, sometimes you're just it sounds like you're out on a limb all the time.
When I go and see Mark play, and he plays something, I'm like, I can hear him.
Yeah, that's him. It's like I play on stage. I'll make 15 flubs a night. You know what I mean? And it's like, hopefully the guitarist cover that one, whatever. But in your music, you don't want to be going there, do you? You want.
Well, I mean, So actually, because I go to a mental trainer, quite to be a sit, but just to sort of help with those aspects. Because it is a thing, and you got to be doing it until you retire. Hopefully, anyway. Some people don't manage it, but hopefully, and then you need some. Sports people, they have athletes have all the support they could ever need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
psychologists, physiotherapists, and we when we come out of college, musicians. I mean, I don't know about you guys if you have any kind of that support like that, but we certainly,
Absolutely not. I mean, this is when Graham came in. He's talking to it, and he's how many friends of his have committed suicide and depression,
and the loneliness.
And there's no preparation for it at all. You're just expected to be able to cope with it with no preparation at all.
And that's why I think it's so incredible. Because luckily for me, I teach as well a lot. In different these different universities in Germany, also in Spain. And I'm always saying to students, if you ever, it's totally fine. If you are having a problem, let me know, and I can put you in touch with the right people. And there are people who do support out there,
Oh, that's important.
But it's a lot of it is down to this, what you say, the kind of music where you are, you're kind of exposed, and it can be a joy if you're feeling good. But if you're not feeling on top of your game, it can also be one of the scariest places to be.
The worm can weed its way in, and that can, you can start sort of toppling yourself over indirectly, not meaning to.
But you stop trusting yourself, and then it's a problem. But it's also, it's one of the things that the danger of it. We're also, I think all musicians we're also kind of adrenaline junkies. So we, also when it's going really well and you're prepared to take risk, and it's one of the most amazing feelings, isn't it?
Brilliant.
It's really similar to an athlete because you train and rehearse, and you've got one opportunity to pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a lot of pressure for I don't know, if you got a solo in a piece or something which lasts for maybe 30 seconds or something, it's a lot of pressure on those 30 seconds.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a lot of
no, sometimes more, because I believe if you're a pole vault or something, you get 3 goes, don't you? I mean,
that's it.
I always think, these guys, how lucky they are.
Jammy, but we're in the wrong game.
Halfway point. Halfway point. Halfway point. So the point that is halfway.
No, it's a lot to think about.
Actually, with our instruments too. I mean, not so much for me, but if you're playing something like a violin where they play like thousands of notes per symphony, and they also it's the physical side.
Yeah.
I mean, their bodies just kind of start caving in.
That's it.
That's what Haley said. We're upper body athletes.
Yeah.
Well,
One of
and
our past episodes.
just
really?
watched Side Rant again. Watched Taylor Hawkins on the Foo Fighters, and his he's the drummer for Foo Fighters, and he.
That must be super physical, isn't it?
That's
They do long sets.
They played a long set, and he smashes it out. Like every, what's the song? Pretender, is it?
Yeah.
Doing the flams at the start of that song.
Yeah.
Every hit's like a snare breaker. It's like, and he does that for.
That's where your. I mean, I imagine it's the same. That's where your technique is. That if you've got a really solid, good technique,
that's it.
That's when it shows, because you can keep doing it.
Keep that up for it.
And if there's a problem with your technique, then at some point, something will start hurting.
Something will falter. Yeah.
Well, I think I've told this story before, but I had there's a guy called Mike Mondazia who lives in London who'd given me bass lessons before, and he's good friends with Rob Trujillo from Metallica.
Oh yeah.
Rob Trujillo came around his house because Metallica were playing in London. He came around his house, and the person he brought with him was his personal sports massage.
Oh right, yeah.
Who was there all the time, just to make sure that he's always loose and limber, he's not tense at all.
Wow.
And when they go off and do an instrument change, actually what they're really going off for is like someone just to quick give them a quick sort their arms out, because they play for like 3 hours, but they have to do it. I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week.
And that's also the difference, because when you in that sort of set, of course you're on constantly, you're on all the time. It's intense and long, isn't it? Whereas the symphony orchestra, they're not so long. The concerts
you have sit back
45 minutes, an hour, and each half. And then also for us, I mean, you've seen us do concerts, and I mean, trombonists, you sit around quite a lot. There's a saying in the profession, you say there's a trombonist, you're either bored shitless or shit scared. There's nothing in between, and that's very true.
I'm just thinking about moments. I'm thinking how I work in my mind. Like, all right, so the song starts, and you're on stage, and you're waiting, and your part's like whatever, 80 bars in or whatever. You know what I mean? And you sat there, and I'd start thinking about Snickers, or do you know what I mean? Or, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh shit, where are we? And I'm like, oh no, and then.
I'm always thinking about dinner, always.
But like, obviously that's what the sheet music's for. You can kind of pick up where you are and sort of, right, I'm there, thank God, I know when to come in. But
exactly. Now, I remember one of the worst things that have happened was last October, and I flew to China, but I amazingly lost my parcel with the visa in it. So I couldn't fly on the day I was supposed to fly. I had to go to London, order a new visa, and I had to fly, and I flew in on the day of the concert. So I had or a day before, I think. So I had terrible jet lag, and sat on and we were doing Stravinsky Firebird, the complete ballet, and in that piece, as a bass trombonist, I don't play the first 35 minutes, not a note, 35 minutes, but you have to sit there on stage. And it was, I mean, I must have fallen asleep about 5 times every minute. I was sitting there thinking, and you can see that the audience around, it's like, late at night in the car, where you keep like,
you shouldn't.
And of course, in the car, you can scream or something, but you can't do that on stage to keep yourself awake, So I was sitting there going, and I was desperate, just kept falling off the seat.
Imagine you fell off this
just like 5 times every minute,
or scream.
What's he doing?
I'd pay serious money to see you do that, honestly. Just halfway through this beautiful piece of music, you trying to keep awake, just like
and then falls off his chair, But there was a lot of that. There was a lot of internal screaming. Yeah. Just sitting there looking in my tails and looking very correct inside. Horrible.
Oh man, brilliant.
Yeah, that's what
It's just no. It's. I was thinking at work today because I knew we were going to do this, and I'm thinking, what can I ask him and all that. And I try and think ahead and all this sort of stuff. And I was thinking, how I know what I know, and you do what you do, and I was wondering how similar they are, just similar. Like gigs, you know what I mean? How rock gigs compared to orchestral gigs. Is it essentially the same? Is it you rock up, sound check, or is the sound check that thing we hear at the very start where everyone sort of tunes? And
no, I think there's a lot of stuff in common. Yeah. I mean, particularly if you're on tour. So if you're on tour, you get up in the morning, have breakfast, maybe chill for an hour or so, fly off somewhere, or get on a bus or whatever, and then you arrive at have a quick lunch. Maybe you have a sound check for half an hour, and then it's a show, and that can continue for about. In our orchestra, we try and have 1 free day a week, but that can continue for sort of a couple of weeks. And that's basically, it's very similar sort of setup, I think, you know, I mean...
Music is as music does. Or
that's why musicians, I mean, certainly in classical music, people do, there's quite a lot of alcohol, there's quite a lot of all sorts of things going on.
Well, that's it. That's the next question. How much rock and roll is there?
It's surprisingly a lot, actually. Wow, people don't think, you know, they think we're all there in our tails and sort of looking correct on stage, but all sorts of stuff goes on. Yeah.
The old, you can hear the night the timpani's on the bloody coke, and you're like,
exactly. Something goes quite a lot faster. It's really it's quite amazing. It's the same old thing. It's the same as, you know, if you're on tour with it's just keeping up with the pace, isn't it? You know, somehow, and also dealing with the monotony of actually, if it's as well as someone was saying, who was touring and the depression of it. You know, touch wood, I've never had a problem with that on tour, but definitely there's quite a monotonous aspect to it, you know.
It's just, I remember, just remembering going around Australia a bit and thinking, it does become a job, you know what I mean? It's just a different venue each day, you know, different place. And sometimes you lose fact of the place that you're in Brisbane, you know, you should get out and have a look at Brisbane. But no, you're in the venue just waiting around to do a sound check.
Exactly,
It's like, it is.
And people think it's glamorous, and you say, "Oh, you know, it must be amazing to travel. You see all these places," and actually, sort of occasionally own up and say, "Well, actually, you don't see anything." You know, I mean, it's not always like that, but it can be like that. You know, that's something to sort of, you know.
Travelling takes up a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not just the travelling; it's the packing and coming to the airport and sitting around and checking out. It's not like you spend all the time there. There's a lot of faff that happens in between.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of sitting by rude, arrogant people on airplanes. Oh god.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. Or people who give you the classic jokes, always like, you know, oh, was that a gun? You know, or something that you think, really?
The one place you really should be talking about guns.
But, but as if you've never heard it before, you know.
God.
So which is the most amazing concert hall you played in, do you reckon?
Concert hall?
Yeah, the actual building.
The
Albert Hall is always special, I guess, isn't it?
Well, the Albert Hall is I find it just amazing, because you think when it was built, it must have been like mind blowing, that place, because it's already spectacular now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's good halls all over, the great halls all over the world, you know. But I mean, in China, there's some amazing places being built now. There's a place in Taiwan. It's like the largest culture centre in the world in Taiwan. Right. That's absolutely amazing.
You played at Sydney Opera House.
Yeah.
Just about. That's probably the one most people know, isn't it? Because it's got the keywords and in the title. But is that? I've stood on the steps, never been in. Yeah, no. So I mean, they're just totally rebuilding at the moment inside, because you know the console at the moment is just a box inside the building. The building's cavernous, you know, obviously, and there's just a box inside. So they're taking that away and they're building something completely new. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so still a concert hall.
Yeah, it'll be a concert hall, but it'll be completely different, sort of, because it's not actually that good.
No,
the concert hall, you know.
The other thing I've heard. Yeah.
But I mean, there's places all over. You know, if you go somewhere like I don't know, you know, there's the famous old ones like Vienna. You know, the music room where they do the New Year concert from every year.
Yeah, that place is amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Where did I see you play in Vienna? Which was like Beethoven's. When I came to Vienna and saw you play.
Oh no, that was stunning,
that place.
That was the Theater an der Wien, like the Vienna Theatre. Yeah,
that was amazing.
That's where that's right. Yeah, exactly. I've forgotten you were there. Yeah, we did Wozzeck. Yeah. I mean, that's that's one of the most interesting things where you get to see amazing buildings. It's really cool.
Probably old. I mean, if Beethoven was there, that's at least 300 years old.
Yeah, I mean, all these places, some of them are really, you know. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Crazy. That's a huge name, Beethoven, and like I got a thrill from, we played in New York in this tiny little dive where the walls were painted matte black in New York, and someone told me, Iggy Pop played here years ago, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, but some of the clubs are amazing, aren't they?
You play the same stage as Beethoven. That's huge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, it's funny when I can't remember. There's a few places I've been to recently, and you know, is where for example, where Mahler, you know, conducted, or these places come up, you know,
probably a lot of names I don't know, to be honest.
I mean, sort of famous composers and stuff, or relatively famous, you know, and it's quite cool. Yeah, but that's the history of the music, you know.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, it's got the biggest history.
Yeah,
is it? Yeah, it definitely has.
I guess so. Yeah.
classical music's got the biggest history, isn't it?
I guess so.
Essentially,
In our culture, at least. Yeah.
Gregorian chants and stuff.
Yeah, unless you go and tribal drumming of Africa and all that sort of stuff.
And actually, a lot of modern music, like rock music and stuff, is actually there's a lot of crossover. It's just the sound is different, but all the structures are quite similar.
That's one thing that is really apparent. I think is actually the shape of the hall and the acoustics of the building is much more important in classical music.
Yeah,
because I think with amplification, you can basically turn it up until you defeat the acoustics.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, because a lot of the places that work really well are sort of like quite dry, aren't they? And because they don't really have an acoustic, so you can.
So what makes a building like a room acoustically good? It's not just a square box, because that's very reflective, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, although there's quite a debate about you have the Toyota halls, which will be, funny enough, the new hall in London. They're going to build a new hall now.
All right.
Because when I was away now, I met the director of the Barbican Centre, and he was talking about this new hall they're going to build.
Yeah,
it's going to be a
is this an exclusive?
Yeah, well, it's the Toyota hall, guys. Yeah, wow.
So what's the Toyota hall?
But it's like he's an acoustician, like a Japanese guy.
Yeah.
But typically the halls are arena halls, so you have the orchestras in the middle and the seats all around.
Oh right, that's cool.
Yeah. But
like a boxing match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a modern take on Albert Hall or something like that.
Yeah.
And then someone like where I play just now, Luzern, is a shoebox hall, which is long, oblong. So some people there's a lot of kind of...
Oh, there's not definitely one is better than the other.
No. There's a lot of,
you can't calculate good acoustics. It's a matter of opinion.
Well, they say you can, and then they say we've calculated this place to be amazing, and then you go and play there and it's rubbish. So no names mentioned, but
opinions and preferences, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's it. So the shape of an orchestra, did you just mention horseshoe shape? Is that?
It's like a horseshoe, exactly.
Is it? Yeah. Is that standard, or is that's developed over time? Because does that happen nowadays just because of how it has happened, or is it definitely the best way to do things?
Well, it is, because basically what you need to do is you need to be somehow find a position that pretty much everyone's playing out, projecting out, and that everyone can see the conductor.
Yeah.
Then hopefully you're not offending anyone too much with the amount of noise you're making, hopefully most of the time. So that basically there are not that many different solutions to that,
So a lot of people might say that basically the conductors are like a human metronome, just waving their stick, and all the musicians follow the stick just to stay in time. But actually, there's a lot more to it.
That's totally not the case.
There's a lot more to it than that, isn't there?
And that's probably one of the most common questions you get asked is, what does a conductor do? And why are they there?
And why do they earn so much money?
And why they? Well, I don't know the answer to that.
They're a good coin, are they? Or
ridiculous. Yeah. Well, compared to us, ridiculously more.
Wow.
Yeah. We do all right. We do okay. I mean, you can live, but they're kind of
you don't live
very
in your Ferrari.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I'm just curious. So they've obviously got a great knowledge of music, classical music, and they obviously play a few instruments themselves and all that sort of stuff. Or do they?
Not necessarily. Well, most of them will play piano. And
are they just great movers?
Yeah. Well, some of them, not always actually, but no. I mean, it's really. I think basically in the end, the crux of the match is that they have to get like 90 people to all play in the same way.
Yeah.
Which is their way, because you might hear Beethoven's Fifth 5 different times.
Exactly.
Each time, and it's the conductor that defines that. Is it?
Yeah, and the tempos are different, and it's a subjective thing. So, and you have to have the charisma, because if you don't have charisma or you can't communicate, the musicians will just do what they want.
You can lose the orchestra, can't you? And
totally.
This guy's a wanker. I'm just going to
totally.
go and do what I want.
I mean, in a really good orchestra, not in a bad orchestra, they're there to beat time. It's true. Yeah. But in a good orchestra, I mean, I heard this from a friend of mine who plays in Berlin, the Philharmonic. He said basically they have the house version, and if the conductor, they'll give them about like a movement at the beginning of one rehearsal or something, and if they decided that this guy's waste of space, they just click onto their own version, just basically ignore them. Wow. And I remember we were I won't mention the name of the conductor. Actually, he's a very nice man, but which is unusual for conductors. But he was conducting us, and it was so funny because we had decided on this occasion to do to follow the concertmaster lead violin and just to sort of bypass him. And he stopped in the general rehearsal. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I sometimes have the impression you're not all watching me." We were like, we're just doing our own thing.
See, that's good. That's the rebellious thing again. I like this. This is good.
An orchestra will, I mean, basically, I know it sounds awful, but when a conductor walks in the morning on the first rehearsal, on a Monday morning, probably 90% of, well, me and my colleagues, 90% of us have already decided before he even brings down the baton if he's any good or not.
From just the way he presents himself.
Because you can tell by the body language.
Wow.
And it's all about that.
It's all about arrogance is not nice, or or confidence.
Yeah, or confidence is charisma.
Line, the humility.
We don't mind someone who's. Someone can be a bastard if they're actually quite good.
So good, yeah.
Then you'll put up with it, But so yeah, you decide very, very quickly, and occasionally we've been wrong, but not very often.
And is it part of their job description to tell you off like teacher?
Not these days, but some still do.
Yeah.
I
was just thinking, it's hard getting told off when you're an adult, isn't it? It's like,
it seems to be sort of old school now, but yeah, there are some around still who are really. There's a couple of cases at the moment of mobbing and stuff like that of very, very famous names who are sort of being,
wow.
Yeah. And you see some of them. They really, they dismantle people. It's incredible. I've seen it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's the sort of the downside of our profession in a way. Is is these sorts of these psychopaths.
Tell Karl about the. I can't say
some of them.
Tell Karl about the Venezuelan chap.
Dudamel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's an interesting story, isn't he?
Well, yeah, he's a guy because we just played with this guy. He's doing quite a lot with our orchestra at the moment. He's from Venezuela, so he's principal conductor in the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Okay. He's quite a big. He's basically if you can have a rock star conductor, then he's probably the one at the moment.
Right.
He's about 37, which is relatively young, very young actually for a conductor. And he's married. His wife is this beautiful Hollywood Spanish actress, and he's living the dream. But he's actually wonderful. He came and conducted us, and he's got tremendous charisma, great musician. We all absolutely love him to bits. Great. Fantastic guy, and he's got an amazing story because he came from one of the barrios. He came through this thing called El Sistema. It's like a national musical education system in Venezuela, and the idea was that all kids, no matter how poor,
get a chance,
could learn instrument and get the highest level of tuition.
Brilliant.
And he's came through that. He's from a very normal area, and he's this world famous conductor now. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
And it's he's an interesting guy.
It's just not something. I don't know how many people think about. I'm going to be a conductor. I'm going to be, or Or it's mad, isn't it? It blows my mind. There
are a few, but not many. Usually, people sort of realise like later on. But it's bizarre.
He wants to do it from the start. Do you think that's where?
Yeah, I think so. He was a violinist, but I think very much. It's like a friend of mine, a guy called Daniel Harding, who's also kind of quite high profile conductor these days, and he decided. He was at school as a trumpet player, like at Cheatham's, this music school, special music school in Manchester. But he decided already at 12 or 13, he sort of rocked up to Simon Rattle and sort of asked him for lessons, and he was so shocked he said yes. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. Don't ask, don't get.
Yeah. And the funny thing is now he's flying. He's just got his flying license, which is amazing. But
is that something you'd move into? Is that how your mind works? Sort of thing, or
well, I've thought about it and I've had a few lessons, but you just have to be. First of all, it's very solitary because no musician will socialise with you in a regular way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because you're the boss.
Yes. Yeah, and you can so often there's a line there because it is really intimidating. You can imagine to be stood on the podium in front of 80 or 90 people who most of them think you're probably not a very nice bloke or woman. Then it can be it's not perfect for sort of having a good social life, So there's that side, and then you have to just, you just have to be quite ruthless, But but not all of them. There's the occasional exception, like everything.
Yeah. Well, so when you do a concert and you're all out having a nice meal, having a couple of drinks, the conductor's not there. He's
rarely.
He's gone home.
Yeah.
Left the hotel.
Yeah. Study scores.
Wow.
Or gone out with sponsors, or occasionally.
Or doing the corporate.
Yeah. But we've had a few. But some this guy, for example, I was talking about from Venezuela. He won't come out for a meal or something like that.
He wouldn't.
No, unless it's with a special, like with the board of the orchestra or something like that. Yeah, but that's the weird thing. I don't think that exists really in your world, does it? Like in the rock, where you don't have this sort of difference of status and hierarchy, do you?
Well,
I don't know. You get.
You can imagine like the singer-songwriter of a band being about themselves, and
you get personalities, and I don't know. I just think it's nice to be nice, isn't it? And trying to be nice to everyone, but you're going to come across people who just ain't nice. And and that's just the way it is. It's, you know, you meet loads of people. I always used to struggle. Oh man, it's so bad. I used to struggle. We used to play with so many other bands.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to one band, I remember saying something like, "Oh, that was amazing. It's the first time I've seen you guys." And you come back straight away with, "No, you saw us about 4 months ago. We supported you then too." I was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It was like, but it was just, it starts blurring, doesn't it? When you play a lot of show, you know, I'm going back 20 years now or 15 years, whatever, but it's, you know, it's like, whoa.
But you do accumulate people you know as well, or who know you.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, it sounds a bit wanky, but it's true.
No, but it's true,
you know, and it happens to me now. Sometimes and people come up and they're hi, you know, it's so like, great to see you, man, and
I get that a lot as a teacher.
I don't know who they are. It's more a teaching thing.
I taught someone age 8 and they come up to me age 16 and I just don't recognise them.
Completely changed. It's true, yeah.
They've doubled their age.
Yeah, exactly. I get that a lot in secondary schools. I just haven't, you saying hello to me, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And they're talking to you in a really familiar way. Like they really know you well, and you have to sort of, you just try and wing it, you know. You don't put your foot in it.
Well, I'm good at that.
There's something else I want to talk about as well, though.
Yep.
Because, because I've had the benefit of Mark's experience of being a musician and being in groups and stuff since I was starting playing instrument and growing up, and I often ask you for advice on bits and pieces, don't I? Yeah. And one thing that is obvious to me is in the orchestral world, God, I've had 1.5 beers, and the classical world, the politics, I mean, there's a similar amount of politics between classical music and rock music, but actually in classical music there seems to be a more definite procedure about how to sort things out. Like, for example, using depths.
Okay.
One thing that always causes bands to have issues is when the guitarist or the bassist or the singer can't make a gig. And the band's like, oh my god, what do we do? We've got to find someone. Oh my god, who do we find? We've got to audition. Oh my god, how do you do this? But actually, because you spend, your kind of full-time orchestra is the one in Gran Canaria, isn't it? But you don't spend the whole year in Gran Canaria. You spend a lot of time with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra or the Luzern Festival Orchestra and playing. So what's the process you go through to assign someone else to do the job that you're not doing when you're off somewhere? Well,
it depends very much on where you are. So obviously, I work across in different countries, and every country has a little bit its own variation on the system. But for example, in the orchestra where I play at home, then we'll do, generally in Spain, you do an audition for what they call a pool, and then they have to call people from the pool. So it's totally institutionalized, and then it's very simple, because if you're ill or you're not able to make a show, I mean, well, you have to be ill. Otherwise, if you're on contract, then you have to play.
Yeah.
Then there's just a list of people they work their way through, and we've ranked them as a section, or together with the orchestra, together with the conductor, and then it's very clear. And that takes all the emotion out. The idea is to take the emotion out of it, make it totally pragmatic. Yeah. So there's a system, and no one can argue. They say, okay, this musician was number 1 in the pool, so we call them first. This person was number 2. Now, actually, I don't think it works very well in practice, that system. So what we do in the other ensembles where I play is it's about who you know. You have one person, a fixer in the orchestra, someone who calls, or each in our orchestra, for example, is one person every group calls, which happens to be me in my section. And it's just about, we have little conferences every project, and we discuss how people have performed and who we'd like to get in, who's played really well recently, who we love to play with. And it's very democratic.
It's all very open and...
Absolutely, it has to be like that, because otherwise, exactly as Aidan just said, you get all sorts of, turbulences and politics and intrigues going on.
Backstabbers.
How does that normally happen in a band then, do you reckon, Karl? Describe the band, the rock process.
I don't know. I feel a bit out of it nowadays, because I haven't been in a band for a couple of 3 years now, sort of thing. Well, Caroline's, we did 2 gigs.
Yep.
We've done 2 gigs, we're all right.
In the last 2 years.
I've depped for you once.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was very pleasant. You went and did a stint on cruise ships, and I jumped in and played some songs, which was good fun. I really enjoy it. You dep a lot.
Yeah.
So you'd probably be a better man to talk about it. I know you, Davy Jones.
Davy Jones Locker, yeah.
Yeah, you do some stuff for them, and
a band called Hissy Fit recently.
Hissy Fit, that's great. And I don't know. I think it's, for me, if I had a band, say I was a guitarist and a singer, like, you know, whatever, and I needed a bass player, it's definitely who you know. Again, like, I'd go yourself every day of the week, you know, because I'm not of your broad, wide skills, whatever, you know what I mean? And you've painted yourself as that sort of bloke who can do that. So, which is cool, but yeah, I don't know.
Quite often it's like, oh, I can't get the gig, but don't worry, my mate can do it, we'll be cool. And then the rest of the band have never, you might get rehearsal if you're lucky with this person, but you're completely under the trust of them. So
you don't have, so you don't have like a, typically it wouldn't be discussed in an open, transparent way in the band, it would just be typically someone who's suggested by the person in question.
What normally happens is there's a gig in 2 weeks, and say, I don't know, this person has got something come up, which means they can't possibly make the gig. The first step is 3 days of panic from the band members, thinking about whether they can actually make the gig or whether they're going to actually pull out the gig, and no one wants to pull out the gig. And then after that, then most band discussions, because there's nothing structured, or like you just described, there's nothing structured there. Band discussions can take days and days and days just to get stuff sorted. So then there goes another 4 or 5 days where someone works out, okay, we're going to get a dep, who should we have? And then by the time they decide who they're going to get, which is normally, I met someone 15 years ago in a pub that plays the guitar, let's get him in. Yeah. And then you have like a rehearsal the day before, you realise it's not really good enough, and then you struggle through the gig, and everyone's pissed off and despondent about the gig because it went badly, because this guy who they got in, or girl who they got in, just clearly wasn't up to the job.
They give you 25 songs, and you learn them, and then they play them in a different key on the night.
Yeah, happens all the time. You're like, what? They do the live version or they do the album version.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Your mind transposition's going mental, thinking, oh God, we're playing this one, got to transpose it all up, and you're like, which I'm not very good at.
So you don't have like an agency to do, because in classical music, you know how it is.
We've got a crap website called Join My Band.
It sounds highly professional. Because you know, in the orchestra world, like particularly in the UK, they're what they call a diary service. So there's 3 in London, and they have a ton of musicians listed.
Oh wow!
And then a fixer will go and say, well, okay, someone can't come or has decided to take that off or whatever, which you can do in London, and they'll go to the diary and say, okay, I need someone for this patch. Who's free? And then they'll say, "Oh, I've got this person."
How do they know that person's up to the task?
Because then generally there'll be a list of about 4 or 5 people, and then you could usually the CVs online, and or if there's in case of doubt, they might ask someone like the section what they think.
Yeah,
you know. So it's quite, but it has to be structured, because we can't pull out of gigs.
No,
you know? I mean, if you've got an orchestra which you're talking about, you know, to fix my orchestra, for example, it's a minimum of 60 or 70,000 for one concert. So I mean, when you're talking about those sorts of amounts of money, plus the conductor, if you pull out, it can sink the orchestra.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little bit more, you know, it's different.
Well, you mentioned the word contract earlier on. Yeah, you're contracted to play the shows. Yeah, which is kind of different. You know, I haven't been in a sort of band big enough to acquire that sort of vibe yet. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you and it has to be like that in a way, because if you can imagine, it will also be chaos if you've got 80 people who someone just suddenly says, well, actually, I've got something better on, there's football on, or I don't fancy it, you know.
Which is like a rock band, isn't it? I can't rehearse tonight, lads. The baby's sick or whatever.
It's the fun of Love Island. Sorry.
I'm off to see Muse. I went, what? I always said that when I was young. I'd rather play a gig than see a gig.
Yeah.
I always said that to myself, and I've missed out on some choice gigs. I missed out on some big shows from some of my favourite bands.
Yeah, but anyone can do a show. I mean, you practice and study to be able to perform. So.
That's it.
Do you ever do, purely out of interest, do you ever have a system, if you've got people studying, do you ever do like a side-by-side? So in a really slick, like really together band who does a lot of gigs, would you occasionally give the opportunity to someone who's studying, who knows really good and really promising, to maybe kind of sit, not obviously they can't perform on stage, but to be involved somehow, like to see how the band works? Well, that's just not really an option.
Some examples,
because we do that, you know.
I think there's too much ego. To be honest, I don't think your typical guitarist would let another person just kind of sit in, because for example, in a pit, someone could sit in and you just sit next to the person and just watch them play.
Yeah.
You could let someone stand at the side of the stage, but there's still always that undercurrent of, they're after my job, don't let them get too close, because they might steal this out from underneath me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if a bass player is doing a depth job and they have to take the place of another bass player, the very best they could expect, even with the big bands, probably is a live recording.
Yeah.
But probably, I mean, it's very rare that they go and actually listen to it and stand on the side of the stage and watch someone do it. You just have to sit at home in your hotel room or in your bedroom and just listen to a live recording, just learn the parts and just turn up and do it.
All right. Okay. Because it interests me. I'm very curious about how actually the path for a rock musician. How do you get better? Is it very clear? Because for us, it's very clear. How to get one ensemble's this quite good, and the next one will be better, and it's very clear how you progress. Yeah. And I wonder how that path is so clear.
There's a progression of shitty pub band,
yeah,
shitty wedding band into better wedding band into like. And then it's exactly like we said at the beginning. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
Hopefully, that's the same everywhere. Yeah, anyway.
Hopefully, there's someone in a band who needs a bass player or a guitarist, and they see you on stage. Like, oh, you're the guy. What are you doing like a week Tuesday? Because we've got this gig. We need someone to do it, and then that's how you do it. But there's no structure to it at all, and there's no obvious pathway, like career pathway. It's just, I mean, the people who are in the most amazing bands, like Coldplay or Muse or whatever, are not the most amazing musicians in the world. No, it's just they happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
You've got bands out there who worked their asses off, and gigged and did wrote some incredible music. There's a band called The Beyond, and they got fairly big. They got on, I can't remember what record label they got on, one of the big metal ones in England, Earache maybe or something like that. And but they did really well with it. But they should have been massive in my eyes because they were amazing and they were awesome. But it
didn't quite work for them somehow.
I don't know. They were firing on all cylinders, but just not. I think they were possibly too early. They were a bit too progressive, a bit too early.
Yeah.
They were doing lots of time and signatures and all that prior to, the bands that are known for doing big time and signatures nowadays, sort of thing. And it's a shame. And they just did a reunion gig last year, actually, and it was amazing to see them. 20 years on.
Is that in Derby or something?
I went up to Derby, and it was amazing. And do you know what? They didn't miss a beat. It was amazing. 20 years on.
So it's still a really slick group. Yeah?
And the singer, had actually become the mayor of Derby.
Really?
In his 20 years absence from music, and he was doing it as a charity thing.
So they've got a lot of gigs there now.
That's it. But they should have made it. They should have been there, but they didn't. And the guys from Coldplay did. I don't know how that happens, but that's just how it happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a shame, but there's lots to think about.
Yeah.
So let's have a listen to some of your work.
Yeah.
Go on then.
So we spoke about this earlier, and you said there's a recording you suggested. So there's one from one of the best gigs you've ever done,
which is rather lucky.
So describe the gig. What made it so
amazing? That's nice, isn't it? When one of the best shows you've ever done has been captured.
Yeah, absolutely. Really nice. Yeah, quite very lucky actually, because normally you play them and they're gone, But no, this is one of the orchestras I mentioned where I've been a member now for about 17 years, I think. Luzern Festival Orchestra. And this was an orchestra that was sort of built up especially by, you can see his photo there, by this conductor who's now passed away, Claudio Bardo.
It's like a supergroup, is it?
Basically, it's
the cream of orchestra music.
Apparently,
Your audio slave of orchestra music.
Basically, he got like my orchestras together. We were like the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, like we were the centre, and then he invited all these sort of stars in from the classical world and made this orchestra. And this was the first year we did it. It was 2003, and it was just amazing. It's always, I just came from there now. It's always a really nice thing to do. Yeah. But this was amazing because it was the first year. No one knew what was going to happen. He'd actually recently been really ill and almost died, but hadn't, so he was kind of came back from the dead, and it was just this incredible atmosphere. And this is the second program we played with them in the first year, which is Mahler 2, which is a big symphony, massive forces, and it's
Mahler symphonies are particularly big, aren't they?
Yeah, usually particularly kind of complex and large scale, and so it was all over the place. People were really kind of freaking out about it because it was just very special sort of occasion,
That's great.
So and luckily there happens to be a CD of it. So
what do people type in if they? Because I'm sure they'll hear this extract, so they want to hear more of this. What do you type into? Because you can't just type in Mahler 2, can you?
No, you have to put if you put Mahler 2 and then Claudio Bardo, or Luzern
Luzern
Festival.
is Lucerne.
Exactly, and actually the same works for Spotify. There's also for YouTube. There's also a video.
All right.
This is on. It's the whole symphony is on YouTube too. So you can watch it.
Professional filmed.
Yeah. So there's this DVD of it. And it's actually all on.
I'll
YouTube.
put a link in the podcast.
Yeah, cool.
Do that for sure.
But yeah, a bit of a plug. But but it's it was an amazing evening. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So which bit should I play?
Let's do it.
I suppose you could put but maybe just put the beginning of the last movement. It just is quite sort of dramatic.
All right. So this is, by the looks of things, it's CD2, track number 4, movement number 5.
Yeah.
Shall I stick it on?
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, kind of calms down from there on.
It's nuts. it's so far beyond my comprehension of no, that sounds, I'm not belittling myself at all, but it's such a massive thing, such an enormous thing, orchestral music for me. It's massive. I can't.
You should come to a concert in London. You must come.
I'll bring it next time. I'll bring it.
I will, because I want to feel. That just sounds like if you sat in a seat and that lot's in front of you, it sounds like it's going to blow your hair back. It just sounds like it's like there must be some severe volume.
Yeah.
Are you when you play a concert, that particular concert, it was mic'd up for recording.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do that. They use air.
Yeah, they'll have mics which are sort of suspended on wires and stuff.
Right,
yeah.
But then that sound's not pumped through a PA for the audience.
No,
it's just the sheer audience.
And when there's singers, they don't amplify the singers either.
That's crazy.
That's what blows
That's
me
a
away
wild
every time.
thing.
And I bet it's loud.
I mean, people say Mariah Carey has a good singer technique, but she couldn't sing over an orchestra like that.
No way. No way. That sounds like.
Oh no! I mean, there's one. It's not on Spotify, but that same year we did a Wagner, like an excerpt with a guy called Bryn Terfel. He's got a famous sort of Welsh, bass baritone. And I mean, that guy, he has the power. I once had the misfortune to sit in front of him, and it's just like I had tinnitus for like 2 weeks after. It's unbelievable, and just with no assistance whatsoever. Yeah,
that's it.
It's just technique,
It is. It's great. I love volume. Sixth time I'm mentioning it, the new Tool album. I couldn't listen to it. It got sent to my phone. I couldn't listen to it on my phone. I just couldn't do it. The tiny speakers, couldn't do it. I got a pretty decent stereo in my van, so I waited all day, patient boy, got in the van and just cranked it. And just because that's what I need. It's the same with flood the stage with piano. I don't know if I'm going to be deaf when I'm older, but I think volume is power, and that sounded like power to me. You know what I mean?
And the funny thing is about you probably remember this from when you played trombone, Aidan, but when you blow really loud, they have a thing called the occlusion effect, and it kind of closes your ears.
Oh, does it?
So when you play really loud, you don't really hear like how loud everything is. It's quite weird. Yeah.
And when you look at a digital clock, the numbers wobble.
Yeah, it's great. Or TV.
Yeah. Because nothing else wobbles. It's just that.
Because you're. Is that an internal thing with your eyes?
Because your brain's like
shaking your brain around. That's what it is.
I'm in the wrong music.
It's crazy shit. And when you play a pedal note, it sort of does. Literally.
The vibrations go through you and weird things that happen.
Yeah.
Is it the technique of? What's it called? Is it the bell? No, what's it called? The bit you blow in?
The mouthpiece.
The mouthpiece. There you go. That would be. What am I blowing in? Bells.
The bell's the other end.
Is it? Yeah,
don't blow in that
end. But is it like a trumpet? Everyone's had a crack on a trumpet.
Yeah.
Same technique?
Yeah.
Trombone? Yeah.
Totally the same.
Yeah.
Just this a bit, there's a bit more space and a bit slower vibration. Yeah. But it's exactly the same.
Same.
Yeah. Just came from a shell, like people used to blow into a shell.
Didgeridoo, I suppose.
Whatever, exactly, yeah. But it's so it's amazing feeling because it's actually your body that vibrates. It's not like a violin, the string vibrates. Maybe a reed, but with us, it's actually it's like singing. It's actually your body. Yeah, amazing. It's quite cool.
I love it.
Yeah, you should definitely come along sometime.
I'd like to because I've never
find a good program.
I think the problem is that a lot of people get intimidated by classical music.
Yeah,
it's like
It's a pol-
It's like jazz. I think jazz music lives in the same world.
It's polarizing.
People are like, I don't understand that. It's not for me.
I think jazz is more esoteric actually in a way.
So?
Yeah, but maybe it's just because I'm so familiar with classical music. I don't know. But
yeah, maybe.
You've been to so many concerts now, haven't you? I mean, Aidan, you've been.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that makes people slightly intimidated about classical music is the length of the movements.
Yeah.
But until you sit there and listen to it and you try it, you just realise it's like.
Yeah.
It's like. I don't know. I'm working for a university in Brighton at the moment, and I did a little module on pop music, and I explained how back in the 1800s, classical music was actually the pop music of the day, wasn't it? And that's what they had to listen to. And back then, they weren't intimidated by it. They weren't, it was just they went out because it was just a way of life. Yeah. But it's kind of like pushed to the side a little bit now because people would just rather listen to easy, unchallenging stuff on Radio 1. And
also, the part of the problem is it's the attitude around it. So if you go to a concert hall and we wear our tails, which I don't particularly enjoy, but we have to a lot of the time, and then all the audience come and they're very posh, and the whole thing's it's just bullshit. You know what I mean?
Would you be looked down upon if you rocked up in a t-shirt and jeans and to enjoy the show, or?
No, not really.
I've done that a few times.
Yeah. I mean, no, unless you go maybe to the opening night of Luzern Festival, but then the tickets are €300 each, so it's probably not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to make. You should make an effort.
But I mean, for a regular concert, no. And I go to concerts kind of practically dressed the way I am now, which is not very formal. So I mean, this is and I think when Mozart was writing opera, they were like and people always say, "Oh, I love musicals and stuff like that." And I say to them, "Well, but they can't bear opera." Yeah. I say, "Well, opera is just a musical, but with much better music."
Yeah.
Like really, like something like Puccini. It's just like the most amazing music.
But people don't think about the quality. It's the initial concept of it that people have issues with.
Exactly. I think opera.
It's getting past the barrier to actually sit down and listen to it.
And of course, the stories are really they're just like musicals. They're really sort of kind of often. Yeah. Really gritty, actually. Aren't they? I mean, like one you came to see in Vienna. It's a real. There's a lot of sort of heavy.
How long are we talking? Like what we just heard there.
Yeah.
How long is that particular?
Well, that movement's 35 minutes, but the symphony in total is about 1 hour 20, something like that. But actually, it flies by for me. That's because I'm playing it.
Yeah. A lot of people are conditioned to 3.5 minutes.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Eddie Golding, aren't they?
Yeah.
So 35 minutes does sound like a long time.
Yeah. And most, if you listen to, that's actually one thing I've noticed. Well, everyone probably notices is pop music's changed. Obviously, nowadays, pop music has a vocal from start to end. There's no musical interludes anymore. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no solos. There's no breaks. There's no. You know what I mean? Okay, maybe like if you go like dubstep, they like their breakdowns and all that sort of stuff. But it's a lot. It's just vocal based. Everything's vocal based nowadays on the radio, which is I don't know.
It's what sells, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. You go pop music back to the 70s, and there was a bit more musicality to it. I think But
and change in texture and stuff like that, and that's what If you listen to a symphony like that, there'll be an awful lot of different change of colour and texture, and it's a real kind of journey.
Well, that's much like Tool.
Kind of break.
There. I'm getting close now.
It's because of the format. I mean, when you're streaming something, it's so easy just to click next.
Yeah.
Next. That there's not a vocal within the first 3 seconds that gets you hooked into it. You have to sit through 10 seconds of introduction. Most people have clicked next by then because they're just
sad. I love the way stuff's allowed. Give a song time, give it a riff time to develop. You know what I mean? And I suppose No,
I mean that's the thing about music, is in the end, music is just emotion, isn't it? So it doesn't have to be one. It can be a complex thing. It can develop, and it's really cool.
It's funny. That's the book I'm reading at the moment. How the difference between emotions and feelings, and how they're very different. And how and emotions are multiple things clasped together, and then it's not just you don't just have one emotion. You know what I mean? It's amazing, and it's all based. It's a guy who's spent his life studying chimpanzees.
Oh right. Huh.
And how he's transposing them onto how close they are to adults and all this sort of humans. But how different they are to humans and all this sort of stuff, and how it's almost like humans are dark and nasty. And even though people call you're an animal, you know what I mean? It's like, well, no, actually. You're a human.
An animal wouldn't do that.
Which is worse than an animal, because an animal wouldn't do that. And anyway, moving on. But
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been going for about an hour and a half, unbelievably.
Blimey.
Wow.
That's because it's interesting and I'm blown away. I love it.
I've noticed in this podcast that if you go any longer than an hour and a half, I have to reduce the bit rate.
Oh,
really? To be able to fit it under 160 megabytes.
Oh, wow.
So unless you want to go all low res.
I never tried that before.
So it's been a pleasure to have you.
It's been
absolute likewise.
It's
really
cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for flying to England especially for this.
Absolutely.
You've completely blown our budget.
Yeah. The contract, I'll be sending it.
That's fine. Invoices later.
Exactly, that's the one. Yeah. Cool. Nice one.
All right. So
closing song.
You ready, Karl?
Could it? I'm going to do it in an Italian manner.
Opera?
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, nice.
That sounds like a Muse song.
Okay, you ready?
All right, bust in. That's completely not Italian. That's quite a frog. I got a frog. I'm going to give it another go.
Do that thing with your
Oh, Jochen Bauer, Boisbach. No. That's Welsh, sorry. It's not in me. Let's just end this podcast. It's not in me.
Is that what you're giving us?
Yeah.
Go on, Aidan, just freestyle.
Yes. Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Robbie the Robot, and as a reward for getting this far through the podcast, here is the new single by Caroline's Capuchin. It is called Robbie the Robot, and to listen again you can find a link in the podcast notes. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the robot of the planet Nubbin.
Your disposal with 187 other languages along with their various dialects and subtongues.
Colloquial English will do just fine, thank you. But you are a robot, aren't you?
That is correct, sir. For your convenience, I am monitored to respond to the name Robbie. Robbie.
you speak?
No, Dr. Spanois.